Telling me that your grandma had 6 brothers?
My mother had 6 brothers. My mother also had 2 little sisters. One was 6 years old and one was 11 when they died of black diphtheria, which was a plague that went through Upper Michigan in about, I don't know what year.
Was it the same as like the rest of the nation?
I don't know. I think it was just Upper Peninsula. But it was a terrible, dreadful thing. And the whole family got that disease. My mom was the baby, and she had it very lightly. And last week, on June the 8th, my mother's last brother passed away. And I went to his funeral in Detroit. So that's the end of their whole family. And his wife gave me, because I'm one of the older ones in the family now, gave me this paper, a newspaper that tells about those 2 little girls dying when they were 6. It's very interesting. I'll give it to you, Andy.
What were their names?
Vera and Edna. And I don't know which. But they died within 2 days of each other.
And how old were they?
6 and 11.
Wow.
Isn't that sad? And the thing was, no one could come to the house to help Grandma and Grandpa. And this one uncle,
plague.
Elmer, who later became a minister, they sold milk for a living, but he could not go in the house, so he had to live in the barn during all of this. And he would, in the evening, he would sneak, or he wouldn't sneak, he would look in the windows at the house, and he would see those girls laying, you know, and looking so very ill. And it really brought him close to the Lord, he said. But then they died. And at the first funeral, all the neighbors came, and my Uncle Elmer, who was in the barn, made the coffins for his sisters. And all the neighbors came, but they couldn't come in the house. So they stood out in the middle of the farmyard, about 100 of them, and had the service and all. And then Grandma and Grandpa could not go to the cemetery because they had other sick children. And it was just it must have been a dreadful time.
None of the other children could stay in the house then either?
Well, the 3, see, there were 4 children total. There were 6 children total. And the other 3 boys and Mama all had it, but they lived. So they had 6 children that had it all the time, at the same time. It was very, very sad. To lose 2 children in 1 week would be devastation. So anyway, the story of my mama.
Now, how old was Uncle Charlie?
My mom was this way. There was, the first brother was Austin, who was a contractor. And first of all, Grandma and Grandpa homesteaded a farm where I was raised on that farm. And he came from Canada. Both of Grandma and Grandpa came from Canada, homesteaded that farm. And he got it from the railroad. And then he built a house which was 100 years old, and it burned down only last summer on that farm.
Your grandpa built that?
My grandpa built that house,
I didn't know.
And his first son was Austin, who got the privilege of going to a college, which most of them didn't. But he did, and he became a builder. And he built the M.C. Nason home, which was a children's home. He built many houses in Sault Ste. Marie.
Grandma Linda was always scared to death that she was going to have to go to the MSC Mason home.
Oh, was she? Because
she always tells us so.
I never heard you say that. Austin built it?
Isn't that unbelievable?
He did.
They all tie
M.C.
together.
Nason. He built many of the houses and things in Sault Ste. Marie. And he married.
No more of this.
Grandpa had, all their time when the kids were home, even when Mom was a girl, in the winter, they moved to an island called Sugar Island, which is right near the Sioux. And there was no ferry to get there. So they had to wait until the ice froze over, and they had a sawmill down there. So all the boys and Grandma and Grandpa, the whole family moved down there for the winters, and they lived in this small, small cabin. The children went to school. There was not very many white people on that island. It was mostly Indians. So they went to school with the Indians, which was some fun, you know. And the Indians were very poor, but they were very kind to all the Pierce kids. So my mother used to tell me stories about living down there in the winter. And Uncle Austin, the first brother, they had a school teacher down there. And she was half Indian. And she lived with Grandma and Grandpa, with white people, you know, rather than stay with the Indians. And Uncle Austin and she fell in love. They got married, okay? And they had 2 children. Margaret, who was the oldest one, and she became a musician. She was a violinist. She was really great at it, too.
Who was Mother?
Margaret, who was Uncle Austin's oldest daughter. She's the oldest one in our whole family of the cousins.
Is she living?
She's still living. She lives over in Sioux, Canada. Her mom just died, and she was 99 last summer, and she lived next door to my Uncle Herbie Curtis in the Sioux. But I did not know the lady because they were divorced. They had the 2 children, and then he divorced her.
Margaret and who?
Isla.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Isla was beautiful.
I remember Isla.
She was beautiful. Just a beautiful girl.
Isla, that's pretty neat.
But she had mental problems. Anyway, she passed away. She's gone already. And so that was Austin. And then Elmer. Along came Uncle Elmer, who married the next school teacher that came, who was Ethel Johnson from the Sioux. And they had 6 children. And when he was young, the Lord revealed to him that he ought to be a minister. He did not heed that law. He got married. He had a store in Dafter. You know where Dafter is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he had a store there, and then he said to himself,
I do one thing at a time.
that's right, that was the whole thing. So Mama used to clean her house and lived with her in Dafter while Mama worked in the store for Uncle Elmer. Well, anyway, so after he had the 5th, well, he had 6 children. There's parts of this story that is not going on TV. You know, there's things that, and anyway, he decided that he's going to go to Bible school. Would you believe that? And so Aunt Ethel said, no way. I am not taking all these 6 kids. You know, we'll starve to death. So he went to, I don't know where he went. He went to a Methodist school somewhere. Became a preacher. But he lost all his kids. Because,
They divorced?
yeah, they got a divorce. Well, his wife got connected up with a man while he was gone. And they got a divorce, and all those kids turned out very bad. Very bad. I don't think there's one of them who lived for the Lord. One went, Bruce, who was redheaded. We had redheads in our family. Went out with Uncle Fred, Mama's next brother, and went to Prairie Bible Institute for a couple of years. But then he came back and just started drinking. They were very musically inclined, and so they got into playing guitars, getting in bands like that, and playing in bars. And they just went, you know, from bad to worse. And it was very sad because my mom loved those children and took care of them when they were little, and they used to be at our house a lot, just a lot. I remember when I was little. Okay, so that takes care of Austin and Elmer. Okay, the next one is Fred. And Uncle Fred, my grandfather had a brother who homesteaded way out in Alberta, in Vegreville, Alberta, which is near Calgary. I've never been there, I just know that. And so he went out there, and he was a young man, and he stayed with Uncle Will Pierce, and fell in love with Uncle Will Pierce's daughter, Joy, who was his first cousin, and they got married. First cousin.
Uncle Will.
Uncle Will Pierce. He's my great uncle. My great uncle. My grandfather's brother.
Who homesteaded out in?
Who's homesteaded?
Okay.
Grandpa homesteaded in Michigan, and this guy went on and went out there. I don't know. He must have had somebody he knew out there. I don't know. There's a lot of parts I don't know. But anyway, he went out there. And so Fred went out there and got married to her. Well, there was Austin, Elmer, and Fred, and then Mama, Ethel. So, okay, he went out there and got married, and finally, after much trials and tribulations, he had 2 children. Okay, he died at the young age of 52, and his wife died just months before. He went out there and got married, and finally, after much trials and tribulations, he had 2 children. Okay, he died at the young age of 52, and his wife died just months before him, and probably the same age, I don't know that. Mm-hmm. And he left Esther and Arthur, who came to the Sioux, Michigan, and Uncle Charlie raised them 2 kids. Okay, so I'll tell you more about Fred in just a little bit. But he had a big wheat farm out there, which was really quite something. Okay. So he needed helpers out there. So Uncle Charlie went out. But the main reason Uncle Charlie went out was because my mother, Ethel, was engaged to a man who lived on the next farm to ours, Grandpa's, on the 8 Mile Road. His name was Ralph Graham, and Mama was engaged to him. So he said he would like to go out there with Charlie out to Fred's, because Fred needed helpers with his big wheat farm. He had oodles and oodles of acres. So Charlie went out there to see why Ralph Graham had stopped writing to Mama, who had the ring and everything. Well, he went out there and found that Ralph Graham had married somebody else. Well, when Mama got that news, she had a nervous breakdown. So she was about 20. So they sent her back down to Canada, to her grandma's house. She was down there for about a year. Just devastated. Finally she came back, but she never got over that man. She never got over it, and she kept all his letters. And as a little girl, I could go in that little black box that was in our closet, and I could pull out a letter and read it. You know, she kept all those letters. I don't know if she ever knew I read them, but I remember reading them. They were very loving, sweet, kind letters. So anyway.
Do you still have those letters, Grandma?
No. And my mother, I used to hear her saying Ralph under her breath, and all of us children have heard her say that. So finally, my dad started.
And she was like angry? Or?
No, just, devastation. Could not believe this happened.
Angela.
So, Mama finally started with Wilbur Curtis, my dad. So then, right before they were married, Dad had quite a bit of money saved up. Well, I suppose $200, I don't know. And he said, now, you can take this money that we have to buy this farm, and you can go out and see Ralph Graham, just to satisfy yourself. If you'd like to do that. Mama said no. So, to end Mama's story, many years after that, when I must have been about 10, and we had the register in our dining room.
I'll get out of the kitchen.
One day Mama said, you better go upstairs, and Ralph Brader came, and Daddy went out to the barn, and I heard the whole thing, he was so sorry he did that, but he got in trouble with the lady, I think. And he said it was the worst thing he ever did in his life, and he still loved her and all that, but there's nothing he could do about it, so, and then that man said to me when I came downstairs, I have a son about your age, and I think you ought to meet, and I said, no way. So I must have been 14 or 15 maybe, because I didn't like him, because what he did to my mother, he was, but,
How did your mother respond to him that day?
oh no, she said she was very happy now. Things were fine with Daddy. She really loved Daddy. And so anyway, about 2 days later, his father, Grandpa Graham, ordered us out a washing machine. We had, nobody else in the world in Dafter Township had a washing machine, but we had a washing machine. And they wondered how come all of a sudden we got so rich. And I was, I could not tell. Okay, that's enough for now.
When did your father come over from Greece?
What a question.
19, how old was he?
Well, he was only young.
16.
And his father went back to get the rest of the family, and the war broke out in Europe there, and he couldn't get back.
I think he was 12 when he came over here in the first place.
Was he left alone here then?
Well, he was left with some friends
Wow.
In
Yeah.
Chicago.
in Chicago, yeah.
Well,
And then he went to work. And then he,
Grandpa.
I don't think he was, well, let's see. Eddie was born in 1920.
20.
20, yeah.
You were born in 1918.
Yeah, but he was born in 1920, and that was the year that he died.
He was 24 years old when he died
24 years old.
of pneumonia.
And at that time, there were a lot of people with that died that time.
Because there was no penicillin.
An epidemic was on, But he had owned by that time he had owned the Saltwater Street Market Express there, and I think he had 5 or 6 trucks there that he used to.
Started with nothing, huh?
Yeah.
Well,
Did he start the fleet,
Yeah.
or did he?
he
Yeah, he
started.
started,
But when when his father went back to get the rest of the family, then he, Andy.
I can get you.
It's loud enough, Andy.
Yeah, that's fine.
Make sure it's loud enough.
When his father went back to get the rest of the family, then he stayed with these Greek people, who one of them later became your grandfather's godfather. You know how they had godfathers
Well, they did that at infancy, when
Yeah.
you were an infant.
when you were a baby, but that was the same man
Oh, yeah.
where that.
Was
Where
Gloria with us that time? No, Nan was with us.
Nan was with us.
Yeah, over in,
What was her name?
Alexander,
But what was his name?
George.
George.
George Papadopoulos.
George.
No.
No,
Just a moment, please.
George Alexander.
Yeah. But he was a millionaire, really.
And about 50 years later, we went to visit him in Florida. They were nice as anything to us.
The godparents were.
Yeah. Oh, very nice. Andy.
And I could come over there.
Well,
And Dad wouldn't go.
Well, I'm going someday.
I'm going with you.
where was I?
Let's go.
We did find out that one of them was a priest, one of them was a mayor.
Judge, attorney.
One is
One a policeman or something? Too?
Yeah.
And they
his
all,
name was Andrew.
Okay. What happened to your mother, Grandpa?
My mother?
After your father died?
Well, she just raised the two of them.
No, but right then, Dad, tell me what happened then. You know, like your father died in
Oh, yeah, and then
November.
and she had a sister that was married to this Lawrence Cannon. and he wanted to run the business.
You worked for your father.
Yeah, he had worked for my father. And he wanted to run the business, so Ma left him run the business. And before you know it, he owned the business. So,
And the kids were out.
No shit.
It was worth $50,000 at the time, which was a lot of money.
Wow, that was an awful lot of money then.
But do you know that business is going to this day?
Is that right?
It's still a South Water Street mine. But what I meant to say, Dad, about your mom at that time, she lost her mother,
oh yeah.
and no, she lost her.
And she was only 19 years old.
She was 19 when all this happened. She lost her husband with pneumonia. She lost her mother with probably pneumonia too, within just a very few months.
Wow.
Well, and she had a baby. She had her second baby, Eddie, in February. So all this from November till February. So then.
So Eddie he was never alive when your dad was alive.
No, you
Yeah.
never seen him.
He was born after you died.
We have some pictures of
Then she's 19.
Do you remember your dad at all? So you were
He
only
was only a
two.
baby. He wasn't even 2.
No, I don't remember.
He was
I-
born
all
in-
I do is know the
You
picture.
can't walk.
Yeah.
I've
Well, he
seen the
was a
picture.
year old.
Where's the picture?
We have a couple of pictures.
I have never seen a picture.
Well, we have them. They're in Florida. Next time you come, remind me.
No, I'm
How many brothers do you have, Grandpa?
How many what?
Brothers?
Oh, I had two. I had 4 brothers.
What are all their names?
Well, there was Ed, Bob, Elmer, and Fred.
Tell about your mom. She married, and she married Grandpa.
Yeah, then she married. Grandpa.
Married his stepfather, who worked for his father. He drove a truck.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So he said, "I'll take care of you." With the 2 little kids. Well, see what happened. That Grandma didn't like those. She never had anything to do with the Greeks over in Greece because when Andy's father died, she got hold of them through the other Greeks, I suppose, and told them about his death. Well, right away they all wrote and said, "Send the children to us. We'll raise them." That was their way of doing things. We'll raise your children. Well, she was highly insulted that they would want to take her children. So she didn't want any part of them. So, but they wrote her that letter, and that's the letter that she told Gloria that she had. She told me about it too, but I didn't think anything of it. But Gloria wanted to see that letter, and Grandma kept saying, "I'll show it to you." Well, someday I'll look it up. She didn't know where it was. So after Grandma died, and they asked us if we wanted anything, we said the only thing we want, there is a letter somewhere in her belongings from Greece, and they found it and gave it to us. So then Nan was home at the time. Gloria was married.
No, Mother, Bill tried to get those translated
Oh yeah,
all the time through his professors, his Greek professors.
nobody knew it.
But it was old Greek,
Uh-huh.
and it was.
So we
Well,
tried.
it's modern Greek and biblical Greek is different.
Yes.
It was old modern Greek.
We took it to the Greek pastor in the Greek pastor too in Sioux, Greek preacher. What do you call him?
Priest.
Priest.
Took it to him. He didn't know it. We took it to that Ganakura, the Greek restaurant, and we took it to. So then the guy in the Greek restaurant says, there are some guys who are working at Kinchelo right now, and they're all Greek and they're from Detroit. And I'll see if they know it. Well, they came in and they said, well,
They could read it right off.
they read it right off. And they took it, but they didn't know how to write it. So they took it to Detroit, and they had it all translated for us and brought it back.
That's great.
What?
There's a pin, stick it, watch it now. You can stick it right into you.
Right in my heart.
Then did you guys write to the?
Yeah. So then I wrote to the address that was on there. And within a couple of weeks, we had 5 letters back.
Wow.
And in this little itty-bitty town that I wrote to, one of the Lampirises was the mayor.
Huh.
Just a little village where your father used to live.
So then they all want us to come over. But at that time, Grandpa was, had his heart problems and we could not go. So
I didn't care to go anyway.
No, he doesn't want to go. He's not interested.
I still don't really.
But I am
I'm not
very-
interested in it.
And then they even sent us a picture of where his father was born. I bet Gloria doesn't know that one. Did you know that, Gloria?
What?
We have a picture of the house where your grandfather was born.
No. You never told me that either.
Little old house on a hill.
Oh.
Yeah, where was that in, like,
Near Athens.
Athens?
Near Athens.
Do you still have those letters?
Uh-huh.
Because I'm
I
gonna go
have
to
the
Greece
letters
for sure.
translated.
I'm gonna go for Greece
No,
for sure.
actually, I have the
And
original
I want to go.
letters.
I want to
Go
look
there.
up our relatives. I'm going there.
Yeah.
I don't know when, but within a couple of years.
You can go there and you can go to Finland.
Mhm.
And then
Ireland.
Ron Pierce, did you meet Ron yesterday, the pastor? Yes. Okay, he's gone up the Pierce family tree, or down it, or whatever you call it.
Oh really?
Oh, he loves it. He's really into it. So he writes letters to me too. He did write letters to me to get all I know. I guess I'm the oldest one now.
Yeah.
Should I put some hot water on for coffee?
Yeah, that's a good idea, Bill.
Get that
I don't
water.
want any coffee.
Decaf. We have decaf.
Oh, you do?
Do you, Bill?
That's all we got is decaf here.
Grandpa?
Sorry, Andy.
Keep stuffing. What else?
Grandpa?
You always stuff. Well, you sit. You
Did you and your brothers go into business together?
Yeah.
What did you guys
Well,
do?
Phil,
Which
tell 'em
which
where
one of the brothers?
Well, it all started when we were pretty young. Probably,
Tell him about your first car, Dad.
no, that's when we went into the business. We bought a, old Model A Ford, a Model T Ford, and we put it together. We had bought two of them and made a truck out of it.
Out of
You're
two
kidding.
cars.
This was before the war. This was, and actually, I was driving when I was 12 years old. And
Did they have-
in Chicago, then you didn't have a driver's license.
Really?
And all you had to have somebody sign, my aunt signed for me. And that's the way we started the business.
Just probably afraid of
Before the war, in probably 35 or 38, we had two trucks then, and then we did a lot of hauling for these stores and stuff like that. Delivery trucks. And then the war broke out, and I said, they had a draft at that time. So, we knew that both of us would be going. I was 20 then, I guess, I was 20 or 20. And I said, well, I'll go in and get my year over with. And Ed was younger than I was. And when I come out, then you could go in. Well, the day that I had my year in, you know, the war really broke out then, and I was shipped overseas.
on your way to Pearl Harbor.
Well, the Philippines. And then the Philippines fell on the way over, and that's how we got to Australia.
Pretty good.
Then we went to Australia, and up through Australia, New Guinea. I was there over there 3 years in the Pacific.
You were in the Pacific for 3 years?
It's a long time.
New Guinea,
New Guinea.
where he washed his shirts in the river on a stone.
And then when I come back, in 1945, or 44, what was it? Marge, when did I come into the Sault Ste. Marine?
45.
Yeah.
February 45.
Well, in the meantime, then after we come back, the war was just about over.
February
And we went
14,
to,
45.
a lot of us that came back, they sent us down to Florida for a rest, a 2-week. We lived in all the nice motels down there.
Really?
Wow.
Hotels.
Hotels, and they didn't have the motels then. Oh, we got rested up, and then I went back in to get discharged, and they sent me up to Waco in Michigan. to a prisoner of war camp there. In fact, we built all German
You built
prisoners that they had brought back in from Germany. I went into town, and I guess you want to know how I met your grandma. I went into town, I went to this USO. This was an organization that entertained the troops. It was set up for that reason. We had cookies, and they had a pool table there, and music, and everything else. And Grandma played the piano there.
I wasn't playing the piano when I met you then.
No, you were behind the
Lunch bar, what do you call it?
lunch counter.
Marge. What'd you say when you first saw him, Grandma?
I said, I said to my cousin, boy, him I think I'll marry. She was crazy. And she stood up for me about, how many months later, in July, and we got married.
Really? What was it, 6 months? 5
March,
months?
April, May, June, July.
February 14 now, let's be nice.
Well,
February.
March, April, May, June, 5 months.
5 months, yeah.
You either know it or you don't know it.
What did you first say to Grandma?
Well, the thing was, that hurried it up a little bit was that he would be discharged. So hey, if he got out of town, that would probably be the end of the whole story. And you wouldn't be there to tell it.
I can move it easy.
So I thought I'd best do something.
Grandpa, what'd you first say to Grandma when you first met her?
Oh, I just kidded around with her. I never
Well,
dreamed
don't
that
you know
she-
what you said? Remember I had made those good,
Cookies? What were they, biscuits or
cupcakes.
cupcakes?
And he went like this. He took the cupcake and went like this and made a big noise, like it
I
was.
used to, I'd take a spoon or a knife underneath the table. Like that, and oh boy.
Rather weird.
That was kind of funny.
Told me his wrong name. Demetrius von Kozlov, and I bought it.
And what?
Well, this guy, I went into town with him. He made up those names. He gave everybody a
They
name.
all had a different name when they came in. Demetrius von Kozlov. So then he
Percy
walked
Van
me home.
Styler and what was the other bunch of other names?
But not that night you didn't walk me home, but later on he walked me home one night. The first time.
No, we had to go in on a truck and we'd leave our boots and stuff there. And we'd meet there, and then we'd go home on trucks. We had to go back to camp on a truck.
This
Back
was
to
in
truck.
February and he came out of Miami.
And it was blizzard. The snow was so deep. Oh.
They hated it.
I didn't come into town for a month after
They'd
that.
hardly talk to you because they all hated it. They just hated being there.
Well, we'd have to go out in the woods all day with these German prisoners and they'd have to cut wood and we'd have to guard them,
What were they like?
Escaped.
They didn't ever want to escape. No,
Oh,
they were
that's
getting fed good and they were out of
One
the war.
night he took me to the Ojibwe, and all of a sudden it came over the loudspeaker, all the soldiers from Rico meet at the truck or meet at the USO or wherever you had to meet, remember? And so we had to leave. They had to leave right now. And it turned out that one of those a Jap prisoner was missing. What did he do? They found him, didn't
Well, that was our mistake. We left him. And that was back there and here he was sitting there. We miscounted, In the woods, yeah.
Probably frozen to death.
And then when Grandpa had leave from the camp, he'd come to town and stay overnight in a hotel. So this one night he stayed in the Hickler Hotel. So when I went to work the next morning, I worked on the
It's
lofts.
burned down now.
And the big thing was that the Hickler house burned down. Well, he was in it.
Princess, stop it.
I still got the key.
The
Is that
fireman
right?
got him out.
You were in there when it was
Yes,
burning?
and I knew he was staying
They come
there.
up through
It
the,
is a miracle I'm here.
Yeah.
they come up through the fire, fire escape there. And broke the window
The
open.
fireman did.
I didn't know there was a fire even. I was sleeping and,
Oh, no way.
And I left it with, my overcoat, I left it there and it burned. Thing burned right to the ground.
The outside fire escape?
Yeah.
Huh.
Hollered at anybody in there, and I hollered back, yeah, I'm here. So he got me down. I threw his
I was really having
clothes
a
on
fit.
and got out. So I went over to the ojibwe and got
Slept
another
the
room.
rest of the night, and I'm looking all over town.
He got another room.
Were you engaged to him then?
No.
Because that was in the middle of winter.
Yeah.
We were only engaged 3 days.
Grandma, Grandma, tell them what happened when you went home with
When he walked you home.
Oh, he walked me home. I didn't live on the farm. I was working on the locks, so I lived with my grandma in an apartment on 520 Bingham, which is now, they already tore it down.
Tore it down,
And so I took him home, and my uncle and aunt owned the house, Badorf's, Uncle Frank Badorf. So I took him home, and I took him in, and I introduced him to Uncle Frank Badorf, and I said, "This is my friend, Demetrius von Kozlov." And Andy looked at me and said, "Oh, I can't do this." He said, "My name is Andy Lampiris." So then, I said to him after I went out to the door, I remember that, by the porch, and I said, "If your name is Andrew Lampiris, how come you got Emma Way on your dog tags around your neck?"
That
See,
would be, yeah.
I mean, you know, he was in bad trouble.
I never believed him.
Well, that explains that was my mother.
And then he told me that he had all these diamond rings on because Aunt Marge had given him diamond rings. And,
Where are they?
well, he's got one on, haven't you? Well, he's, you know, his diamond rings.
Yeah.
And,
Damn that
so,
killed
you know,
me.
he told me he was really, had the bucks, lived in Chicago, and knew the mayor and all this.
He told you that?
But we were smart enough at the USO not to believe everybody, everything that everybody talked about. But that's the way life was then. Life is not like that anymore because everything was, you know, get married today because tomorrow you might not come back. This kind of stuff. It's a whole different thing when there's a war on it.
Look, married to, and what did all of them end up doing? Did they all stay in Chicago? What did they do?
Well, after we got married, we went back and lived in Chicago for 13 years. My brother and I, we had a construction business there. We built houses
Which brother?
and- Ed. Then we had an office on Halsted Street there. And really, I don't know if you should really put that on there. My one brother, he used to drink a lot. Ed was my partner. And that was one of the most of the reasons that we kind of, he relied on me too much, and I thought if I left him there that he would, you know, quit drinking. So it didn't work that way though.
He lost the business.
Yeah, well, it really went downhill. But we decided to move back to the Sioux, and we bought a motel there, and that's how we got back there.
What motel did you buy? Where was it? How'd you decide to name it?
Oh, the River Air Motel.
We named it though.
Yeah,
What was it called before that? Anything?
there wasn't,
It wasn't built.
didn't have a sign or nothing
No,
on
it
it.
wasn't completed.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You had to finish the interior.
Yeah, I
Was it
finished-
just a shell?
Yeah.
And the funny of it is,
All he had, it was 2 rooms finished.
Oh, okay.
So then I finished the rest, and I built 4 more units, and they had 12 units there. Oh,
Who? Your other brothers were, who were they again? And are
well,
Which of
Bob,
them
he was, he worked in construction in Chicago. He did, he was a pipe fitter. And Fred, he was,
Robert never
Yeah.
married.
yeah, Robert never
He
married.
died at the age of 47 years old of cancer.
But he drank a lot too.
Was it cirrhosis of the liver?
No,
No,
Ed,
it was
Ed,
cancer of the stomach.
Ed
Oh.
was, had cirrhosis
Cirrhosis
of the liver, yeah.
But
And
Ed got married and had, he married a lady with one child, and then they had another child. And
Bonnie and Sharon.
then his wife died, and then
His wife was only 38.
Then he got worse really after his wife
he
died.
really drank.
what was his wife's name?
Penny.
Penny.
She was exactly my age. She died when we were 38. And Robert was exactly my age.
She had a brain tumor, didn't she?
So then what happened to Bonnie and Sharon?
Well, Bonnie and Sharon, Grandma went out there and lived with them
And raised him, yeah.
and raised them. In Eddie's house. He had a real nice house. And then he died.
Sharon was married before he died.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So then Grandma took care of Bonnie. And then Robert died out there. And then Grandpa died out there.
well, Grandma died
Grandma
first.
died
Then-
first.
Yeah, Grandma died first. And then Bonnie took care of Grandpa. And he died of cancer too. Then there were two more brothers, Elmer, who married
Grandma
Virginia.
didn't die of cancer.
No,
No, she died of heart.
I thought it was a stroke.
What was it?
Cerebral.
Heart stroke. No, it was stomach.
An aneurysm in the stomach?
No, what do you call that?
Coronary thrombosis?
yeah, that's what,
That's it.
yeah.
Lucky guess.
Yeah, that's it.
He was around.
Well, he gets around. He's been in a lot of hospitals where that's happened.
And Elmer married Virginia. And Elmer was babysat you, Gloria, always when
We go
You
to
were-
hockey games
yeah.
and stuff like that.
he was that was his job,
And we used to go to the hockey games every
twice a week,
week.
Wednesday and Saturday nights.
What team?
Blackhawks, Chicago Blackhawks.
We used to go downtown, we had season tickets, we went with another couple. And so Elmer always stayed with Gloria. And he was about, how old was he? 17, 18?
That's before he was in the army.
Mm-hmm. Before he was married.
He went into the army after that then?
And then Elmer went into the, well, Eddie and Robert were both in the army too.
During the war?
Uh-huh, during Second World War. And Eddie, he had a Purple Heart. And nobody in our
Well,
family.
he got that at Normandy.
Yeah, he was at D-Day.
He was in the invasion of Europe on D-Day.
But nobody to this day knows why. So when he came home, we were still living, we were still living with Grandma and Grandpa because we couldn't find an apartment for 2.5 years. And we had Gloria in that time, and she was 2.5 years, oh no, she was 1.5 years old, 18 months old when we moved out of the family house. And Eddie came home in the meantime, and Freddie and Elmer were about
In high school.
yeah, they were about 14 and 16, I'd say. So Grandma used to, when Eddie would be in shaving or anything, she'd send the kids into the bathroom to kind of look them over and see if they could find any kind of an ouch on him, that would be for a Purple Heart, because he never told us. We don't know.
Well, his arm there is where he got that, yeah.
Well, you don't know that. It's a deep, dark secret, whatever happened to him. But D-Day was a terrible thing. And then Robert, he was over in that same theater of war,
Yeah.
and they got to see each other over there one time.
Just once?
Yeah,
Just
he was
once.
at the Battle of the Bulge, and then they were both in the hospital at the same time.
Yeah.
Well-
Even Robert didn't know what was wrong with him.
Was
What
Robert
units did
wounded
they
too?
fight with?
Pardon me?
No, Bob wasn't. I don't think Bob was wounded, was he?
Wounded?
Yeah,
No, I think he was in the hospital for R&R or something.
I don't know.
What units did they fight
But
with?
he wasn't wounded. He didn't.
What
get
units did they fight with, do you know? I don't know.
Ed was with an anti-aircraft unit, and
They were the
I
heads
think it
of
was the
guys.
first. And then Bob, he was with that parachute group, the Screaming Eagles.
The 82nd.
82nd, yeah, airborne. That's an old unit. They're still
Still the
operation.
best.
Huh?
Still the best.
Yeah.
You know that?
They led the charge out of Iraq.
They did.
But there have been,
Like
you
March
know,
23rd.
that's changed its personnel hundreds of times since then.
Yeah. Different boys.
Then Elmer, then it was Elmer, and he's about, he's,
He was the only one that didn't go overseas.
Elmer in the Korean War?
No,
No.
Freddie was.
Freddie was, yeah.
well, Elmer was in the war at the same time, so, but he was
In Washington,
in Washington D.C. with the FBI.
No, he was a Secret Service some way or another,
Yeah.
because he never,
He couldn't talk about what he did. We don't know what he did. We never could talk about it.
What secrets?
And people came around in the neighborhood, asked questions about him. You know,
he was, you
Yeah,
know,
I think-
Background check?
Yeah.
Oh,
and Virginia would never talk about it. It was something in printing, because that's what he loves now. And when I first went there, the child was 14 years old. He had a printing press in the bedroom. It was, you know, this kind of printing press. And he's always had one ever since. He's still got one.
he's still doing
He's
that in
still doing
Chicago.
the
He got a print-
old-fashioned way. He won't do it. He
Oh,
won't get it.
he got self-feeding machines now, but,
he won't. He shouldn't. We shouldn't ask him to do Andy's invitations.
I
No, because he would never charge you for them.
Well, I don't do that then.
No, he never charged us for anything. He doesn't even send out bills. So therefore, they haven't gotten very far in this world. They have not.
Good heart again.
everybody owes him, you know, and then,
Does Elmer have kids?
yeah.
You know them.
Mikey,
I mean, it's a question that I know the answer.
Ginny is the oldest one.
Good.
And your mom and dad led Ginny to the Lord, Glory and
Oh,
Bill.
really? I didn't
Yep.
know that.
He lived
I
with
did.
us.
She
And-
was one of Nan's best friends, right?
Yes.
And really, I think that's starting to take a hold
Yeah,
on her now.
it is.
Good
Last
job.
summer I got to talk to her. First time in
And her,
all my life I've been able to talk to any of them about the Lord without, you know, getting some kind of backlash. And she talked to me.
Maybe.
Yeah.
You're probably going way over here and back to Grandma.
so you never can tell when you witness to somebody how long it's gonna take
Right.
before it takes effect, or,
Well, next time Bill goes to one of those,
Council of 18 will be December.
I'm gonna go with him.
In Chicago?
Might be
Yeah.
my last one there in Chicago.
I doubt it.
That's sit off a year. Even if there's no
Oh,
big
that's right.
controversy or anything where I'm needed, I probably wouldn't run again.
You finally have to sit off a year?
Or they-
And who was your youngest brother? Elmer was youngest?
Freddie.
No, Freddie.
Fred was the youngest, yeah.
Freddie came to our wedding. He was 12 years old. Elmer couldn't come because he was going to Cub Scouts. Camp. So he didn't, you know, he wouldn't be bothered. But Freddie came, and I had never met his mom or any of us. I had never met any.
Before
any
you
of
got
them.
married?
Nope.
No way.
But Dad had gone home and asked his mother if it was all right if he married me because I was Protestant and he was Catholic. She said,
But Grandma was not really Catholic.
no, Grandma
She
was
turned.
Methodist.
I don't even know if she ever turned Catholic when she
I
married
don't know. I don't think she
Grandpa.
did. She just sent the
Wait.
kids. Sent the kids to the Catholic church, but I think most of the time they stopped off Ogden Park and played ball. That's the way I heard it.
Yeah, that was
That's
pretty
the
cool.
way I heard it
That was pretty cool.
with the Elmer and Freddie and the whole lot of them.
What did your mom say when you asked if you could marry a Protestant instead?
Well, she didn't say no, or She thought it was fine, you know.
That's what her family was.
And anyway, she came to the wedding, bless her heart, on the train. So when she got off the train, it's the first time I ever saw her. And I loved her. And Freddie, he had never been out of Chicago. So, when he got out to the farm, first we showed him the outdoor John. Oh no. Well,
Oh, did you see that big fish that seagull had?
and the next morning when he woke up, he said to my dad, Mr. Curtis, where's the closest place I could get an ice cream cone? Where's the closest store I could go to? We're 8 miles out of the country, you know stores.
I'm sure Grandpa laughed hysterically.
He did. He always told Freddie about that every time we saw him.
Yeah.
He's an awful nice boy. He married Sharon, and they have Dawn and Kimmy and Freddie and Kevin. Nice family. Everybody's married but Dawn. No, Kevin's not married. The oldest and youngest are single.
Who just got married? Who's it
Freddie.
with? That's
Freddie.
right.
Princess.
Mafia wedding.
Every
It's still
time,
going real good.
every time we go there, you know, they just bring out the fatted calf and they really treat us like we're royalty.
I like
We
that.
parked the
That was
car.
cool.
But
They're
the,
very hospitable people.
yes.
Yeah, they
But
are.
the thing
really.
is, we don't hear from one time we go there till the next.
Oh,
Christmas, we get a card from
Yeah,
Sharon. Not from Virginia.
Well, I still did like it too.
Not Virginia, do you?
No.
I don't think Virginia writes
Somebody
any
get the
cards.
dog.
She's got the printing press.
Yeah.
She could get her cards free.
She could just put her name on
She's
it.
got more cards around there than the,
I know.
I'm sure. That's the best.
you could take a picture.
Oh, I better pause. Just tell that story? Somebody?
Why and when we,
Sure.
well, after little Andy died, we were kind of down in the dumps. Especially Nan, because Gloria was going to college. Is that right, Dad? Gloria was going to college and Andy died and there were just the three of us. So I took her to the doctor because she had a rash and she didn't want to go places and she was very depressed.
How old was she?
9. So a doctor said, is there any way you can get her out of town for a while? Came home and told Dad and he said, yeah. We will get we will buy a trailer and we will go to Florida for the winter. We will put her to school. So we did that. But when we came down here, we bought an 18-foot trailer with a double bed on the bottom and a bunk bed, single bunk bed above us. And it had a little John, and it had a little place to eat, cook, a little kitchen thing. You know what it was like. You probably don't know what it was like.
Well, did Mom and Dad live in a trailer like that too? No, it was a bigger.
This was one we bought, I don't know who from, in the first place, in the Sioux. We hitched it up to something, whatever car we had, and we went to Florida. And we wanted to be on the water. We didn't care where, but we wanted to be on the water.
To actually be able to see the ocean or the bay.
Well, some kind of water.
It was on tap.
We like water. So, we came down through Tampa. Then we came over to St. Petersburg. Because it's too industrial over in Tampa. So we came over to St. Petersburg. And we went to, the first trailer park we went to was owned by some ball club. Cincinnati Reds or somebody. So we couldn't get in there. The next one we came to, they wouldn't take children, but they would take dogs. If you had a dog, that's fine. So the third one that I remember we went to was the Stricklands. It was, what's the name of that one?
What was that?
What's the name of that?
West Shore.
4013 Southwest Shore Boulevard.
4013 Southwest
That's
Shore.
impressive.
He remembered.
He wrote that episode.
He was courting.
It's the only thing he remembers.
No, he was there.
I know. I can't get him to remember when I learned how
Oh
to
yeah,
swim.
it's funny that he
Sunset. Sunset.
Sunset Bay. It sounded nice, didn't it?
Yeah.
And it was.
Was it?
Yeah. It wasn't.
Beautiful sunset.
They had
Come
a
down,
dock.
it seemed like it dropped right, sun dropped right into the water.
So we went there. And when we went in, Bill Strickland, a real handsome big guy, said, "We love kids. We got 2 of them. Bring her in." And so she took care of those little kids a lot. He really got his money worth. And besides that, the 2 little things were at our house all the time because they loved Uncle Andy. That's what they called us. And we got so we could take them to Sunday school. We took them to a Baptist church and found out that he was Baptist, their father, but he didn't go to church anymore. And his mother was from Germany, Hertha. And to this day, I just sent her a birthday card. We keep in touch. Hertha. You gotta say it like that. He met her in Germany, but they're divorced. And it happened under our nose. But anyway.
What do you mean by that?
Well, there was a lady in the park. And Hertha went back to Germany.
She did?
Well, no, just for a visit.
Right.
And he started seeing this lady.
The way the mice will play.
Yeah. So then we had our little travel trailer in there. And Gloria came down for spring break when we were in that little trailer. That was before you came. 1 year. And then, funny thing happened. We decided we liked that place and maybe we'd stay there. So there was a boy, a young man, who was in the Army in MacDill Air Force Base, that's right there. And he wanted a small trailer, he was getting out. And his grandma had died, so he had this single wide with 2 bedrooms and 2 baths he wanted to get rid of. We traded. We had to give him money, but I don't remember how much. So we traded and had this wonderful, it was nice, wasn't it? And then Bill came down for Christmas. Remember you came down? You came down and then you flew to the zoo. I think.
Yeah, we drove down from school.
Yeah. And then did you fly back?
I flew to the zoo.
And then did you fly back and get your car? You must have.
Must have.
I remember you flew down and you brought a little bottle of snow for Gloria.
Yeah.
Remember
From your
that?
father.
Yeah.
From your father. You said, here's a gift for you. It was like in a little ring box. And Nan, she had 1 bedroom and bath, and so that was for Bill. So he got to have our guest room and bath. And Nan slept on the couch, and Gloria slept on another couch. And there we were. That was fun. And the Bonathans, who owned the Sugar Island Ferry at the time, they had kind of followed us down there because they play the horses. They like to be near the racetrack.
Right.
So we knew that that was near a racetrack. So we talked to them about it. They talked to us about it when we were up there. In fact, they sold Corley and Keith their house.
Really?
They sold Corley and Keith their house on the river. You know where they live now? For guess how much? $11,000.
Furnished.
On the riverfront.
Furnished. It was like a dollhouse. It was little.
That place is
Yeah, I
worth
remember when it was little.
It's worth $150,000 now.
I bet it is worth more than that.
Just the
Could be more
waterfront
than that.
itself.
Yeah.
And the house is so much
Yeah, we
nicer.
heard about it and we called them up. They weren't even married when we, but they
Oh,
wouldn't.
yeah, they were living down at
Oh, yeah, they were living down in
They were
Florida.
married.
That's right.
They were renting
Rent.
a place down there.
That was good.
So they were your neighbors.
Yeah, for a very short time, and then we turned around and bought the
Longships. That's right.
longships. Bill and Gloria ran that for one summer,
They did?
The river area.
and Bill ran the bank, Central Savings. and they wanted
he
him.
did construction work too. He worked on that that place on Portage for 1 year there while he was going to college.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't you remember that?
Did it seem strange to move so far away from home? Like, cause both you'd lived two different places before, but they were both
Yeah,
near
but we
family.
were only there for the winters.
Yeah,
We would come down.
it's still a pretty big adventure. You know, not everybody else in the Sault Ste. Marie
No.
We never
picks
thought
up
of it
and
as
goes
that,
off.
did we?
I was kind of flighty anyways.
Oh, I was,
Well, you know, I after, you know, I turned 21, I spent 5 years in the service, and I was all over, and
I hadn't even been to Pickford. I was glad to go, let's go. It's true. I was at Pickford once.
Yeah. But you were happy to become a traveler.
Oh, yeah, loved it.
yeah, we liked traveling.
Both of us loved it. Well, how we ever got
I'm
down.
still, you know, she still wants to buy a motorhome, but I keep telling her,
I don't. How we ever got to come to Florida in the very first place was this. I never had a job, you know, I was always a home mother. So, Mr. Fig, who Bill worked for, I'm sure, he had the Sioux Woolen Mill, and he hired all the kids in
Traverse Bay Wall?
Traverse Bay. Yeah.
Which is
Traverse
everywhere
Bay.
now.
I think they're still in business, but
Oh
not
yeah,
much.
they're
But-
big downstate.
But
Yeah,
he's gone.
Huge.
but they closed the one up in
I know
Sioux.
they did. Like they have them in Cadillac and in Traverse City.
Oh, yeah.
Huge, beautiful
Two,
stores.
two of his stepdaughters or something took it over.
Mm-mm.
Who took it over?
His uncle owned them. Do we have to go on Fig? Okay.
No, we don't have to, but you can. It sounds interesting.
Well, it's kind of funny. His uncle owned it, Uncle Luke. And if Terry Rudd was here, he would march around and say, "Here comes Uncle Luke." And you fixed all
He
the
would
sweaters.
imitate 'em all.
All this, yeah, it was funny. And everything had to be folded. That's what you had to do. You kept everything folded in that store.
Yeah.
But Terry was the best one to tell that story about Uncle Luke.
Oh.
And so anyway, I worked. So we decided he wanted me to work. He wanted to know. He thought I'd be the perfect person to help him with his what do you call that? When it's
Inventory.
inventory.
Oh.
Okay. I don't know when it was, what time of the year, but you take an inventory. I had to count all this. I don't remember what I did, but I loved it. I worked for about a month. So anyway, we had a family, like we always had, a family meeting. What do we call that? Family one. Huh?
A conference.
Family conference. And the kids and their father decided I could go to work. And so I went. And when I would come home, Gloria and Nan would have everything on the table. The dishes would be done, the beds would be made, the washing was done, and the ironing was done, and I worked.
That's great.
And the funny of it was, I liked to sew at that point. I had to pay him when I got my check. I had to pay him because
All the stuff you would buy.
all this we had.
All the big deals she made.
Right.
We had material in that basement, and I used to make Gloria all her skirts and stuff. And Nan
Did you really?
Mhm.
I didn't know that.
made her one once, and it was for something special at school. And
Is this how you know,
she put it on in the morning, and the
improve your
zipper
game?
was, you had to do it from the inside. I had it
How'd you do it?
That's funny. So how did that end up going to
So
Florida?
anyway, I got to be very friendly with Figs.
Uh-huh.
Wrong thing. They were. Did you ever have friends in your life that they were nice people, but you had to be their friend. You don't have any other friends. You have them, and we don't work that way.
Right.
So, so we were their friends, and we went over their house, or they were at our house, or we were at their house. And they lived in that beautiful, big, third floor house on What street? Water Street.
Water Street, yeah.
In the Sioux.
Beautiful, yeah. It's still there, the house.
Well, that's real rough.
And so anyway, they went to Florida every winter because his mom and dad lived on Vero Beach. So he said, "Tell you what I'll do. If you go to Florida, I'll get you a cottage next to ours." And I said, "Well, you can get it for a week or." But anyway, we talked it over and we decided to buy the trailer. Okay. And I said, "But."
That's a transport.
What's that?
Bobber?
I'm not sure. I didn't see it.
We don't want to have it for a week, maybe a couple of nights, you know. And I said, and it has to have a pool. That's why we're going to Florida. It has to have a pool. So we got there, and it was a shacky old thing. His mother was here, and he was here, and we were there. And it was a shacky old, you know.
Right.
That isn't what we went to Florida for. And no pool.
Oh.
So we said, okay, we can't have it. We're going down the road. We went down the road and we got a motel for, just a couple of days. And anyway, we took all his kids. They had 3 kids the same as ours. Connie and Gloria, Candy and Nan. What was the little guy's name? Marty. Marty and Andy. They're all the same age. It was fun. But so that's how we went to Florida. And then we left them and went, you know.
Right.
We went to right when we left them, we went to, what's the thing that they just saw? Cypress Garden.
Yeah.
And we found a motel.
Hey, kid.
With,
Oh.
it had a kitchen. Anyway, it was $11 a night. It had rooms for all of us.
Really?
And they had a pool.
Yeah.
They had a pool, but it was empty yet. So it was Easter, Dad. And so the lady said, "I'm so sorry." We said, that's okay. It's kind of chilly anyway, you know. But so we took that place because we wanted to go to Cyprus. And when we got up in the morning, that woman had that full. We said, "Oh, that's really nice." She said, "Well, I have to tell you this. Not very long ago, my son, my only son, was killed." And she said, "This was his pool. Because you have a little guy, I'll fill this pool." And that was in 1963 in the spring, and by 1963 in the fall, Andy was gone. Isn't that something?
How's your headache feel? Better?
I feel like just... What's this child doing? What's he going to do? That's a good idea.
So, let's see. I was asking you the other night to tell me about, the farm. Did you ever go to the place on Sugar Island? That was your uncle's or your grandpa's place? It was your grandpa's place.
Well, it belonged to Grandpa, but Grandpa died when I was 5.
He did.
He did.
Grandpa Pierce?
At my house.
But that was his place on Sugar Island?
It was a sawmill. And they lived down there in the winter.
The whole family did?
The whole family moved down there. And in the winters when you get logs out, because of the snow and the sled, and it was easy to do. And then they took the logs over to the mainland, across the river, at 9 Mile Point, in sleds. And they lost 3 times. They lost a team of horses, so they lost 3 teams of horses.
And all the logs.
And all
but
the
no
logs.
people.
Not all in one year, during the
But the
years.
people were okay?
No,
Yeah.
nobody got drowned.
Why?
Because they tried to keep it going all the way that they could when the ice was getting
Excuse
thick.
me.
That means they were crossing the St. Mary's River, is that right?
Yeah.
Does it always freeze over
Yeah.
every year?
Oh, yeah, it still does. Icebreakers go up there.
Yeah.
When I worked in the locks, you had to wait for the river to, icebreaker to come through. But then they didn't have icebreakers. So you waited till, I don't know, April.
So did you grow up going to the sawmill?
That was long gone. Like,
Did you go to Sugar Island at all?
oh, yeah, because he sold or gave Sugar Island
Oh, sorry.
to Charlie. Uncle Charlie. He probably sold it to him. I don't know that. I don't know that part of the story. But he had 3 cottages down there. And he had one he sold to a Finlander who made a sauna right by the water. And that always intrigued me because
You want to go?
no, they would go in that cold water. You know. Well, that was, well, ever since I was born, we always went down to Sugar Island every summer for a day, family, you know, all of the Curtises and all the Pierces and.
Really? All the Curtises and Pierces? Huh.
Well, the Curtises who were like my Aunt Cora, my dad's sisters and brothers, some of his kids, but not as much as the Pearson, because it was the Pearson. But Mama, all the kids went to school with the Indians down there.
When, in the wintertime, you mean?
Yeah. And in the summertime, they came back and ran the farm, did the farm. That was their living. Selling logs and farming. Well, they had 7 kids.
So was it Grandma's farm? The farm that you grew up on was the same farm that she grew up on. Is that true?
That was Grandpa's too.
But your dad bought it from him?
Yep, $17,000 for it. $1,700, I'm sorry,
$1,700.
for the 80 acres
Wow. So what was, is it mostly crops?
and the house. No, there was a lot of woods.
Really? Those weren't productive. Just did you go exploring in the woods?
No, just woods. We never did anything with it. Just pretty woods. All the way around the farm, really. Except oh, that little girl, she's gonna be sick.
Did your mom tell you stories about growing up?
Oh, yeah.
Like?
Well, like on Sugar Island now, that's a good story. They,
Best storyteller in the world.
oh,
Wilbert.
uh-huh.
He loved to tell stories.
They lived down there in the winter, so the kids went to school with the Indians, and the Indians were not too clean. So my mother said that, you know, 3 times or 4 times a winter, all the kids would get lice. And Grandma used to use kerosene to get it out of there, some mixture of kerosene. She hated it. And then, but the Indians loved her. They called her Edel.
Let's go in our daddy's room first.
And
Grandma, we're going in
one day she was
daddy's
at
office.
school and she saw smoke coming. And the whole place was on fire.
The school?
That was the school where they were. And then these white girls were the teachers. And the first teacher Mama had married her oldest brother. The second teacher married her second oldest brother. And the first one married an Indian. She was an Indian teacher, and he married her. Austin.
Do you remember like what tribe she was? Is everybody Chippewa or Ojibwe?
She was Ojibwe.
Who's that mother?
Aunt Mary. Aunt Mary. Forget her last name. before she was married. Barkley. And she just died a few years ago. She was 104 and she died. But I didn't know her because he remarried.
They got
Oh
divorced.
gosh, yeah, they got divorced. Why, I don't know.
Hey,
Look at this.
What are you doing? Do you believe that?
Grandma.
that's a lot of places.
I found some apples.
Yeah, but not for now. It might be for dinner. That's a good
No,
idea.
but I mean for dinner and for tomorrow. I don't want to put it in the refrigerator.
I don't think it's going to fit in the refrigerator.
Outside.
Got the video
Not
going.
outside either.
And I'm asking
How about I
stories.
put it on the counter?
Yeah, put it on the counter.
Okay, Mom?
What?
Well, at the oven, this is like this.
They're getting a little loud.
You took them home.
All the bullies.
Their name was Bullies. They're still around. They're still Bullies. Indian.
Those are for babies.
And they were, some of them were helped grandma at the house and with the kids. Mamie Bully loved Mama's brothers. And so, not a lot of years ago, one of her brothers was having a nervous breakdown and he came home to Mama. Well, since we're married, so we took him down there to see Mamie Bully.
Really?
Yeah, and she just was so excited.
You lived in a cabin with all that dirt floor.
Oh, yeah. They
Who did?
lived in houses
The
with no
Bullies.
floors. And the chickens?
I was there.
That's
Day.
when you went to visit.
Day.
Where's
So-
Jalen? Oh, honey.
Oh.
Andy, how about this for your...
You haven't turned it off.
No, I'm just wondering what is going on.
It's just tipping.
There they go. They're getting ready to get on. Okay.
Play music outside. We're trying to get music outside.
Okay, here we go. On the good ship. What's the name of this ship?
What's the name of this? This is the good ship lollipop.
Outside, I bring a radio.
Ryan kept saying in the car on the way here.
This one.
Oh,
What's your second favorite?
did you have any when you were kids?
Yes, I did. I had one when I was 13 and 16, and I have the paper clippings out of the paper. You know, in that day, somebody poured. Yeah, it was fancy.
Really? So like you went to a special place, like a reception?
We had it, Mom had, my mother had.
Addison,
at our
look.
house.
Well, you
That guy's
got married at your
fishing in
house,
that little
so
boat out there.
everything happened at your house. Yeah. But it got announced in the paper afterwards?
Yeah, I have the clippings.
Fun.
All the names of everybody.
Don't look right at the sun.
Oh, isn't that great?